Dan Ilman, Mike Beer, two graded stakes races on tap at Sam Houston on Sunday. Let's look at race number 9, the Grade 3 John B. Connally Turf Cup. $200,000 is the purse. We're traveling a mile and a half. Get involved with a DRF Bets account. You won't be sorry. Double your first deposit up to $250 with DRF Bets. Learn more at drf.com/bet. Here's the field for the Grade 3 John Connally, and not surprising, trainer Michael Maker, very well represented. He's got the 2 Cross Border at 7-2. He's got the 3 Patriot Drive at 20-1. He's got the 7 Marzo at 9-2, and he's got the number 12 Bema's Boy at 6-1. So Maker's got this race surrounded, and he's done well in the race in the past.
Yeah, it's not surprising to see him well represented here. I think he wins this race every year, doesn't he?
It seems he does. A bigger picture usually wins this race every year. I hope the old boy's getting a nice break, if not a nice retirement. Let's see what the Timeform U.S. Pace Projector has to say. They've got a dirt horse, the 11 Sleepy Eyes Todd, out there on the lead. He was the pace setter in the Oklahoma Derby, a race where he surprisingly finished second, ahead of Mucho Gusto, who competed in the Pegasus World Cup on Saturday. This is a good dirt horse. Don't really see a lot of turf pedigree, but he might be a pace presence.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how the pace plays out here. I never expect fast paces in races like this, but I guess if Sleepy Eyes Todd is going to run here, they got to use his speed.
The 1 Prospector Fever, I guess, can be close simply because he's stretching out from a mile to a mile and a half. He's been on dirt recently. We'll go back to his most recent turf race. This is an allowance effort at Remington Park, and he's going to be on the far outside here trying to make a run. He'll end up finishing 5th, beaten a length. It was a 7.5. It was a mile and a 16th race that just didn't have a lot of pace for him. He's out of the picture. Now he's back in the picture. I don't like these blanket finishes.
Yeah, it didn't seem like a very strong race here. Listen, he's 4 for 9 on turf in his career. That's a good thing, but he's going to be a big price in this race.
And the horse that finished 8th in that race, not too far behind Prospector Fever. Well, he came back to win, but it was for a $15,000 tag with an 80 buyer speed figure. Let's look at Cross Border, who was 6th last time out in the Fort Lauderdale. They turned him back to a mile and an eighth. They put him on the lead. And while he's done well at a mile and an eighth in the past, we know that Maker just excels stretching these horses out, and against the Instilled Regards and the admission offices and the Channel Cats, I think a mile and an eighth isn't his right distance. This is good for him.
Yeah, it was just a tough spot for him last time. This isn't as tough a field as that last one was. We'll see what he does. I mean, you know, the only time they went a mile and a half with him was in that Grade 1, and he ran a surprisingly good race that day. If he runs something like that against this field, he's going to be very tough to beat.
Maker claimed Patriot Drive, the number 3, for $45,000 back at Saratoga. Still seeking his first win with this horse. He's come close on a couple of occasions. I think the problem here is this horse just doesn't have any kind of early speed, but it is the first time Maker is stretching him all the way out, and it's always a dangerous move for this barn.
And that is the one thing to like about this horse. On paper, he looks like he's in way too tough here, but Maker has a way to get these horses to improve.
No real excuse, I thought, for Zamura D last time out, unless you believe that the mile and a 16th is just a little bit too short for him. I thought the trip worked out pretty well. He has lots of seconds and thirds on his paper. He's the kind of horse that stretching out, I guess, can be a little bit closer to the pace, and his big number came 2 back at a mile and a half.
Yeah, I don't have any real problem with him. I mean, he's not my kind of horse, and I think he's in too tough, but he has run well at a mile and a half a couple times. The win at Keeneland over this distance back in April, you know, he finished well in that race, but I didn't even think he was the best horse in there. There were a couple other horses in there who I thought ran better than he did.
Trainer Carl Broberg won 547 races last year. He won one with Yowzer, who he claimed for $7,500 on the 4th of July, and then he came back to win. His most recent turf start was 3 back at Retama. This is a $7,500 starter allowance race, and Yowzer is going to finish second. What did you think of this effort from Yowzer? And from a class standpoint, he looks way up against it, but he's just a nice, honest 8-year-old.
Yeah, he is an honest horse, that's for sure. I mean, you can see here, he's no match for the horse that wins this race. You know, I don't know. I guess they're just taking a shot here again. I don't see it on paper.
Things to like about the number 6, another mystery, 12-1 on the morning line. He's trained by a very good horseman in Chris Block. He has a very nice pedigree, and he's coming off of a good win going 1 1/8 at the fairgrounds. Now, his buyers are a little light, but he's all upside. We're going to take a look at his last start against Stakes Horse. It was at the 1.5 distance in the Bald Eagle Derby. He's in the green cap, and he's in with a chance at the 3/16 pole, but he just sort of one pace late, and it makes me wonder if maybe this distance against this class of horse is a little too much too soon right now.
I wonder about distance for him, too. I respect his upside. I respect his trainer. I like the fact that he comes in off of a career best effort when he won last time at Fairgrounds, but he got a perfect trip when he won that last race, Dan.
Maker claimed Martzo for 62.5 at Kentucky Downs. He ended up winning the Grade 3 Sycamore Stakes, 3 starts back going 1.5 miles. I thought he got a wonderful trip and ride under Ricardo Santana to win that race. The Red Smith, I don't really think the trip worked out that great for him. He was also in against some really nice horses. Last time out in the Fort Lauderdale, similar situation as Cross Border. They turned him back in distance, and against those kind of horses, I think that distance is too sharp for him.
Yeah, I agree with you. He didn't run his best race last time. Not that he ran poorly, but that race was just too tough for him. I don't know. I liked his races. I liked his race 3 back a lot. I know he got a perfect trip, but I thought he ran really well that day, and I had a big excuse for him in the Red Smith. I'm willing to give this horse one more chance.
Third start of the form cycle for the 8, Nate's Attack, a horse that's 0 for 6 lifetime on the turf, does his best running on wet dirt. This is a bit of an ask.
Yeah, I didn't see it with this horse.
Dot Matrix is the number 9, and Dot Matrix could easily win a race like this for Brad Cox. Rock solid New York bred, capable of popping buyers in the mid to high 90s, as he did in that Red Smith last time out. We're going to watch that race. Sadler's Joy, Red Knight, 2 very good horses, finished 1-2. We're going to watch Dot Matrix thread his way in between horses. The number 6 in here to finish 3rd. I thought he might have been a little bit conservatively ridden on the backstretch, Mike. He was up close to the pace. They kind of let a couple of horses get away from him, and then he tried to re-rally against these 2. He's real sharp. Are you worried about the distance with him?
I still am. I got to say, Dan, I was worried about the distance last time for him. I did not like him at all in the Red Smith because I just thought 1 3/8 would be too far for him. As it turns out, he actually ran pretty well in that race. I mean, the 1-2 finishes came from way out of it. And he was relatively close to that pace. So he ran better than I thought he would last time. Now he's got to go longer. I'm not as against him as I was last time, but I'm still going to go in a different direction.
First time as a 4-year-old for the 10 Tracksmith, who's done little wrong, first or second in 70% of his lifetime starts. Stakes winner last time out at the fairgrounds. Stakes winner over the summer at Monmouth. Here's the Frisk Me Now Stakes. It was not the strongest field. He got a very nice trip, saving ground early. He's now on the far outside, and he just runs over the top of these horses. I thought maybe he was hanging a little bit once he made the lead, Mike. He did get an 87 buyer, but he's a very, very consistent horse. Distance is a question for him. This is the first time he's stretched out past 1 1/8 in his life.
Yeah, that's the real question for me with him is, will he get to 1.5 miles? We'll see what happens. He's the kind of horse, though, that I'm always going to be positive on. He's got talent. He's run well in basically all of his races, and I always expect these horses to get better. The turf horses, when they get to 4 years old and up, I always feel like they're gonna start improving. And if he takes a step forward in here, he can contend.
The 11 Sleepy Eyes Todd has won 3 of his last 4, second in the Oklahoma Derby at 40-1. Again, he has the speed, and he has run very fast races on dirt. Patio Prado, the sire, 11% winners with first-time turf runners, but this dam has thrown 6 turf runners, and none of them have won.
Yeah, not a ton of pedigree, which bothers me. Listen, I'm not going to knock his form. His last couple of races on the main track are good. I don't know if he's going to be able to do that on turf.
And he's going to have to stretch out past 1 1/8 for the first time in his career. I wonder if Bema's Boy is the right one for Michael Maker. He claimed this one for $30,000. He's been rewarded with a couple of wins, including this race at Keeneland. And he had a very nice trip in this race. But I also thought he won very convincingly with an 89 buyer speed figure. He's just kind of cruising up on the outside. This is a nice effort from Bema's Boy. He came back in the River City handicap. He caught a wet turf course. He was 3 wide around the track around both turns. He ran okay. I think he's kind of coming into his form. And this race was the first and only time he ever stretched out, and he seemed to finish with a plum.
Yeah, he really did. He's an interesting horse in here. Maybe the other 2 of the other makers are better. Martzo and Cross Border seem like they have better form than him, but I'm not going to be surprised when this horse runs well.
Let's talk about our top selection for the Connally. We both landed on Marzo, 4-maker. You went 7-2, 10, and 9. I went 7-9, 12, and 2. We liked his win at the distance in the Sycamore. We thought he had an excuse in the Fort Lauderdale. What was your big excuse for him in the Red Smith?
I just didn't like the trip that he got in that race.
Yeah.
I didn't think he got the right ride at all, and it just didn't work out for him. And he came up empty in the stretch, but up until that point, I just didn't like the position he was in at any point. I just really like his tactical speed. I think he's going to get a good trip in this race.
Took the words right out of my mouth. Tactical speed could be the two key words to describe Marzo, our top selection in the John B. Connally Turf. Race 9 at Sam Houston on Sunday is an approximate post of 6 o'clock Central. Good luck.